You know, we've showcased some great performers here on McKnight tonight, and my next guest really does have something special. But instead of showing a clip, I want you to listen to the audio of my next guest singing, and feel free to close your eyes.
Here I go, from the hut to the boat to the sea for
Guess what? That beautiful voice doesn't belong to the great Roy Orbison. It actually belongs to John Stephan, who has a tribute show coming about the iconic singer. That's him there, and he's the man behind that voice. And he's right here on McKnight tonight. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's such an honor.
It is amazing to just listen to that voice. What drew you to Roy Orbison? Is it because you sound like him, or is it because you've trained your voice to sound like him?
Look, I get a lot of people asking if I've had lessons growing up, and I haven't had any formal lessons, but I always say my parents, the music that my parents listened to, the records of the 60s and 70s, were the people who pretty much taught me everything I know. And I guess when you're 2 and 3 and 4 years old and your parents playing Roy Orbison all day, somehow it tends to teach you to hit those notes and to, I guess, appreciate the emotion and love behind each note that you sing.
Well, this is more than a show that you're doing. It really, from everything I can see, is an experience. And I love this. You're personally endorsed by Roy's son, Wesley.
That's right. It was a huge honor. I was living in America for about 18 years, working and recording. And whilst there, I was asked to sing at the Grand Ole Opry by Vince Gill. And I decided to sing as one of my songs, "Crying" by Roy Orbison. And I think he had a feeling I was going to do that. So he invited the Orbison family over, and they heard it. And they were standing in the wings as I walked off the stage, and from that point we became very good friends. And whenever I get the chance, I just have to do this show because it's working with Wesley and reminding the world how great his dad actually was.
Well, he loves you so much. I've got a quote here. He says, "John Stephan is the only person in the world today that could do justice to my father's music." That is a statement.
It was something that blew me away. We were recording Wesley for some of the video footage for the show. So throughout the show, we have Wesley talking as a voiceover about his dad and telling us little things that most people didn't know. And we originally produced this show for Las Vegas. So we had it on the Las Vegas Strip for a while and did really well there. And so it had to have all that production. But sitting back in the studio and you know, I had my eyes closed listening to everything that was being recorded and said. And when he said that, it was honestly one of the biggest honors I think someone could say, not just because Roy Orbison was so great, but because it was coming from his son.
Mm. Well, you've sold over 10 million albums around the world. What connects you and your audience?
I don't know. I think there's so many things in music that can touch people in so many different ways. But because my influences were singers and singers who could really tell stories, not only with the lyrics, but with the tone of their voice, you know, they really had that emotion. I like to think that somehow I guess, been able to do the same thing, because I know that's what attracts me to certain types of music and songs. It's the emotion and that raw feeling that is behind each note that's sung, you know. And I think you can tell a great story with that emotion, but if you don't have emotion in what you're singing, no one's really going to listen to that story.
So true. When you're doing a tribute show, do you lose a sense of identity? What's the balance between being yourself and imitating the singing style of someone like Roy Orbison, who you're doing the tribute to?
Yeah, I think you would definitely lose yourself. I find it very difficult to understand how so many people, I guess, devote their lives to doing tribute shows. And when I say tribute shows, in the sense of an impersonation,
Yes.
one of the key
And there is a
things,
difference between a tribute show and impersonating a performer.
definitely. So this particular show, I only agreed to do it, and to be honest, the Orbison family only put their name behind it on the basis that I wasn't impersonating their dad. You know, I was really singing as John Stephan and saluting the great music that Roy Orbison wrote and sang.
Well, it is great music, and you'll be performing at the Glen Street Theatre in Belrose, New South Wales, on Friday, the 7th of November. So what can people expect from this show?
It's a 2-hour concert. We go through 15 of Roy's #1 hits. And as I said, I don't dress up as Roy Orbison, so don't expect to see an impersonator.
But I have heard you rock a mean pair of sunnies.
Yeah, well, who doesn't like Ray-Ban? I mean, you know, that's definitely a very cool factor there. But my drummer wears the sunnies during the show, so we do throw that in. But you know, you get to experience a lot of stories about Roy Orbison, spoken by his son Wesley. As I said, we go through the 15 #1 hits he had and many other songs. And I tell you a few stories as well. On meeting the Orbison family, I recorded my album with the Roy Orbison band, and I became friends with Roy's co-writers, Joe Melson and Bill Dees, and his producers. So, you know, it really was. It wasn't my focus when I was living in the US because I was writing my own music. I have 4 original albums, and as you said, I've been released on many albums around the world and written for
10
other people
million
as well.
album sales you've had. That's a hell of a lot of a hell of a lot of sales.
Yeah, I tell you what, if only money came with that, but you know, we do it for the love. But,
I know the feeling.
You know,
I know the feeling.
it's the industry, isn't it? You got to do it for the love. But you know, it to be able to do this amongst all that original stuff and to be taken back myself to my childhood and listening to that music through my parents, I believe it does actually relate to so many generations, not just the people who today might be 70 years old who grew up in the 60s, but also to their children, you know, like myself, who grew up loving it and appreciating the brilliance in what it was.
Brilliance is absolutely the word. So if people want to see you, they can contact the Glen Street Theatre in Belrose. If you do a Google, you'll find their details. And you can also, we can support you. You've got a Spotify page. You're on Spotify. So we can go and stream your music and help you get that 8 cents that will go towards your fund.
Well, I got an email the other day saying I hit 15 million spins or something, and I believe I've made about $600. So, yeah, for 15 million. Spotify's amazing. But it's the way of the future, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, you seem like a great bloke, and all the footage I see of your concerts is fantastic. So all the stuff you've done in Las Vegas and around the world, it just looks amazing. So I wish you every success. Thanks for joining us on McKnight tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Fun, insightful interviews from a washed-up producer with nothing to lose.